Listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal will either wake you up or confirm what you've been denying for years. Right now, at this very moment, you're trapped in a cycle so perfectly engineered, so mathematically precise, that even people earning $300,000 a year can't escape it. It's called the money loop, and it doesn't care about your education, your intelligence, or how hard you work. It's designed to keep you dependent on your next paycheck until the day you die. But here's the truth. The financial system doesn't want you to know. Every single billionaire you admire, every wealth empire you envy, was built by someone who discovered the exit and had the discipline to take it. Today, I'm handing you the map. The question is whether you have what it takes to follow it. I'm William Vanderbilt, and for the past 2 decades, I've studied the psychology of wealth, dissected the strategies of the ultra-rich, and reverse-engineered the exact mechanisms that separate those who build empires from those who rent their lives 1 month at a time. What you're about to hear isn't theory, it's the blueprint. And before we go any further, if you're serious about breaking free from financial mediocrity, do yourself a favor right now and hit that subscribe button. This isn't optional. The strategies I share on this channel are worth tens of thousands of dollars in consulting fees, and I'm giving them to you for free. But you have to signal to yourself that you're committed. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with someone who needs to hear it, because the people around you staying trapped will keep pulling you back down unless you surround yourself with those moving up. Now let's get into it. The money loop operates on a principle so simple it's almost elegant. Money comes in through your paycheck. Money immediately flows out through fixed obligations: rent, mortgage, car payments, insurance, utilities, subscriptions. Then you need another paycheck to repeat the cycle. There's no accumulation, no compound growth, no wealth building. Just an endless treadmill where you're running faster every year, but never actually moving forward. And here's what makes this trap truly insidious. It scales with your income. Earn $50,000, spend $48,000. Get promoted to $100,000, spend $96,000. Hit $200,000, spend $195,000. The game doesn't change. Only the numbers get bigger. Let me prove this to you with data that should terrify you. 40% of Americans earning over $300,000 annually report living paycheck to paycheck. These aren't people working minimum wage jobs. These are doctors, lawyers, engineers, executives, people society considers successful, and they're one missed paycheck away from financial collapse. Why? Because they've fallen into the exact same trap as someone earning $30,000, just with a bigger house, a nicer car, and more expensive restaurants. The money loop doesn't discriminate. It devours everyone who doesn't understand how to escape it. Now let me tell you a story that illustrates this perfectly. Sarah was a senior marketing executive at a Fortune 500 company, pulling in $280,000 a year. By every external measure, she'd made it: corner office, stock options, business class flights. But when I sat down with her financial statements, the reality was devastating. After taxes, she was taking home about $170,000. Sounds like plenty, right? Here's where it went. $4,200 a month for her downtown apartment lease, $1,200 for her leased BMW, another $800 for insurance and parking, $2,000 for private school tuition for her daughter, $1,500 for various subscriptions, gym, streaming services, meal kits, premium software. Add another $3,000 for dining out, shopping, and entertainment that she justified as networking expenses. Before we even counted retirement contributions or emergency fund building, she was spending $13,000 monthly, $156,000 annually. That left her with $14,000 for the entire year to build actual wealth. But here's the killer. She had $60,000 in credit card debt from past emergencies and lifestyle inflation, costing her another $1,000 a month in minimum payments. Sarah wasn't building wealth. She was trapped in an upscale version of poverty, and she didn't even know it. This is the money loop in action, and the mechanics are brutally efficient. Let me break down exactly how this trap is engineered to keep you cycling forever. The foundation is fixed costs that exceed flexibility. For the average American, housing, transportation, food, and utilities consume 60 to 70% of income before they make a single discretionary choice. That leaves only 30 to 40% for debt payments, savings, investments, and emergencies. But that's not where the trap closes. The trap closes through a psychological phenomenon called lifestyle inflation. Here's how it works. You're earning $60,000 a year, spending $57,000 and saving $3,000. You get a promotion to $75,000. Your brain doesn't think, I should save that extra $15,000. Your brain thinks, I can finally afford that nicer apartment, that better car, those dinners I've been denying myself. Within 6 months, your spending has adjusted to $72,000, and you're still only saving $3,000. You're working harder, earning more, and getting exactly nowhere in wealth building. This isn't a personal failure. This is your psychology being hijacked by a system designed to extract maximum spending from you at every income level. And now the second mechanism kicks in. Debt redesigns your paycheck flow. When an unexpected expense hits, medical emergency, car repair, job loss, most people don't have savings to cover it. They turn to credit. The average American credit card charges 18% interest. Some payday loans hit 300% APR. And here's where the mathematics become genuinely evil. Minimum credit card payments primarily cover interest, not principal. Someone carrying $5,000 in credit card debt at 18% APR makes minimum payments of $75 monthly. But only $15 to $20 of that payment actually reduces the debt. The remaining $55 to $60 vanishes into interest. You're literally paying the bank for the privilege of staying poor. And research shows that over 80% of payday loan borrowers end up reborrowing within a month, creating a perpetual refinancing cycle where fees compound faster than you can escape. But there's a third element that makes modern consumer culture uniquely effective at keeping people trapped. And it's one most people don't even realize is operating. It's the psychological disconnection created by digital payments. When you hand over physical cash, your brain experiences what researchers call the pain of paying. It's a tangible, visceral discomfort. You feel the loss. That pain serves as a natural brake on overspending. Digital payments eliminate this friction entirely. When spending happens through taps, clicks, and invisible transactions processed in the background, your brain loses its warning signal. Research on what scientists call spendception shows that digital payments significantly reduce psychological barriers to spending, leading to impulse purchases and dramatically higher overall spending behavior. One-click checkout, Apple Pay, subscription services that auto-renew. All of these create spending that feels frictionless and somehow less consequential. The pain is gone, so the spending accelerates. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. The structural mechanisms I just described, fixed costs, lifestyle inflation, debt traps, digital friction removal, those are the machine. But the fuel that powers this machine is psychology, and the psychological traps operating here affect poor people and wealthy people equally. Let me walk you through the most destructive ones. First, the dopamine loop. Every time you anticipate or make a purchase, your brain floods with dopamine. That neurochemical creates a powerful sensation of pleasure and satisfaction. The problem is this dopamine high is temporary. Your brain quickly adapts back to baseline, leaving you feeling unfulfilled and craving another hit. This creates an addiction-like cycle where shopping stops being about acquiring things you need and starts being about chasing that neurochemical rush. For someone experiencing financial stress, this pattern becomes particularly dangerous because they're using the very behavior that created their stress, spending, to temporarily escape the stress itself. It's a perfect feedback loop. You're stressed about money, so you shop to feel better, which creates more money stress, which drives more shopping to escape. You're self-medicating with the poison that's killing you. And marketing has become exponentially more sophisticated at exploiting this vulnerability. Companies can now track your behavior online, identify your emotional state based on browsing patterns, and serve you hyper-personalized advertisements designed to trigger specific insecurities and desires. Someone browsing shoes receives relentless shoe advertisements. Someone researching vacations gets bombarded with limited-time travel deals. The messaging explicitly links consumption to identity and worth. You deserve this. Treat yourself. Be the best version of yourself by buying our product. This isn't accidental. This is psychological warfare designed to extract maximum spending from you by hijacking your brain's reward system. The second psychological trap is social comparison, and social media has weaponized it beyond anything previous generations experienced. You scroll through Instagram and see curated highlight reels of other people's seemingly perfect lives. Luxury vacations, designer purchases, renovated homes, expensive dinners. Your brain experiences what researchers call FOMO, fear of missing out, combined with a deep sense of inadequacy. And here's what the research shows. Approximately 40% of Americans admit to deliberately overspending to impress others or keep up appearances. This isn't limited to low-income earners trying to look successful. This is a universal human vulnerability that affects six-figure earners just as powerfully. They delay vacations they could afford, skip home renovations they need, postpone major life decisions like marriage, not because they can't afford these things, but because they're hemorrhaging money on status symbols designed to signal success to people who don't actually care about them. The third psychological trap is the scarcity mindset, and it persists even among wealthy individuals. It's the persistent feeling that there's never enough money, no matter how much you earn. This mindset keeps people trapped in reactive, desperate decision-making rather than strategic, opportunity-focused thinking. Someone operating from scarcity makes urgent financial decisions. They liquidate retirement accounts early, paying massive penalties. They take on high-interest debt to cover short-term gaps. They spend unexpected windfalls immediately rather than investing them. Research shows that the same impatient half of the population that borrows at high interest rates on credit cards tends to spend unexpected money, tax refunds, bonuses, inheritance, quickly rather than investing it for compound growth. They're trapped in a psychological state where money feels scarce regardless of how much they have, so they grasp at immediate gratification rather than building long-term security. Now here's a trap that particularly affects high earners: borrowing from your future self. High-income professionals fall into overconfidence about future earnings. They spend today based on expected bonuses, anticipated commissions, stock options that haven't vested yet, or next year's projected salary increase. They create a psychological contract with themselves that says, "I'll spend now and my future self will handle it." The problem: when that future income doesn't materialize, a missed bonus, a delayed promotion, a market downturn reducing stock value, they're caught with financial commitments their current cash flow cannot support. They've spent money they didn't have yet based on assumptions about the future, and now they're trapped trying to cover those obligations. And perhaps the most destructive psychological pattern is financial denial. Many people earning $200,000 or more annually admit they have no idea where their money goes month to month. They tell themselves, "I make enough, I don't need to budget." And that belief allows them to remain in complete denial about their actual financial situation until a crisis forces awareness. This denial serves a psychological function. It prevents the discomfort of acknowledging poor financial decisions, but it also prevents any corrective action. You can't fix a problem you refuse to see, so they stay locked in cycles they're not consciously monitoring, spending unconsciously, and wondering why wealth never accumulates despite their high income. Now at this point, you might be thinking this is depressing. If the system is designed to trap me, if psychology works against me, if even high earners can't escape, what's the point? And that's exactly where I want you. Because the people who escape the money loop don't do it by accident. They do it by understanding these mechanisms so completely that they can engineer their way out. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Let me tell you about someone who escaped in the most dramatic way imaginable. Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty in rural Mississippi. She wore dresses made from potato sacks. She faced abuse, discrimination, and every structural impediment that typically keeps people trapped in the money loop for generations. But Oprah's escape wasn't luck. It was strategic, and the principles she used are ones you can implement starting today. The first principle Oprah understood: employees receive paychecks, owners receive profits, and build equity. When she transitioned from news anchor to talk show host, she was still trading time for money. But when she founded Harpo Productions, giving herself ownership of her content, Her income trajectory changed fundamentally. She wasn't being paid for her time anymore. She was building an asset that generated money, whether she personally showed up or not. That's the first escape mechanism, moving from employee to owner mentality. It doesn't mean you have to quit your job tomorrow. It means you have to start building assets that generate income independent of your personal labor. Then Oprah systematically diversified her income streams. She launched O Magazine. She co-founded the Oprah Winfrey Network. She made strategic investments in Weight Watchers that generated massive returns. She acquired real estate holdings worth over $600 million. Each investment wasn't about consumption. It was about generating passive income or asset appreciation. This is the second principle: build multiple income streams. The money loop depends on income concentration. All your money comes from one source, your job, and all your money leaves toward one problem, living expenses. Escape requires income diversification so that if one stream declines, others compensate. But here's what made Oprah's strategy truly brilliant. She converted her deepest vulnerabilities into competitive advantages. Rather than hiding her trauma and difficult past, she monetized her emotional intelligence and authentic vulnerability, making them the foundation of her media empire. This teaches a critical lesson that most people miss. The money loop traps people who see themselves as victims of circumstance. Escape requires reframing your pain, your struggles, your unique difficulties as assets rather than liabilities. What makes you different is what makes you valuable. But you have to be willing to leverage it. Now let me tell you about Jay-Z, because his path reveals a different escape mechanism. When established record labels rejected Jay-Z repeatedly, he faced a fundamental choice. He could accept the rejection, remaining dependent on gatekeepers who controlled access to the music industry, or he could create his own path. In 1995, he co-founded Rockefeller Records using his first advance payment, starting from a low-rent office in downtown Manhattan. He didn't trade his labor for a paycheck working as an artist for someone else's label. He created a business structure that generated wealth from other people's talent and effort. This is what Robert Kiyosaki calls making money work for you instead of working for money. By 2007, Jay-Z sold Rockaware for $204 million. He then launched Roc Nation, expanding into artist management, touring, publishing, and sports management. Each business generated income largely independent of his personal effort. That's the inverse of the money loop. In the money loop, all income depends on continuous personal labor. You stop working, money stops flowing. Jay-Z built a system where money flows whether he's working or sleeping. Now take a moment and ask yourself honestly, are you building anything that generates income when you're not actively working? Because if the answer is no, you're still in the loop. And I want you to drop a comment right now telling me your biggest challenge in building passive income. What's stopping you? Is it knowledge? Is it capital? Is it fear? Tell me in the comments, because understanding your specific obstacle is the first step to overcoming it. Let me tell you about Mark Cuban, because his story reveals the psychological requirements for escape that most people aren't willing to face. Mark Cuban started as a bartender, sharing a 3-bedroom apartment with 6 other people. He wasn't special, he wasn't connected, he didn't have family money. What he had was an insight that changed everything. If you want exceptional results, you have to make exceptional sacrifices. Cuban didn't take a vacation for almost a decade while building his first company, Micro Solutions. He worked around the clock, lived minimally, and delayed every gratification. Was it balanced? Absolutely not. Was it sustainable forever? No. But here's what Cuban understood that most people refuse to accept. Escape from the money loop requires temporary intensity that most people will never endure. Cuban sold Micro Solutions at age 32 for $6 million when he created Broadcast.com and sold it to Yahoo for $5.9 billion. He immediately hedged his wealth by spending $20 million to protect his fortune during market volatility. This reveals the third principle. Once you escape through building wealth, you must protect it through diversification and strategic risk management. Building wealth is only half the game. Keeping it requires different skills entirely. Now here's what's fascinating about Cuban's approach. He wasn't just working harder. He was making a calculated bet that short-term suffering would create long-term freedom. And this is where most people fail. They want the outcome, the wealth, the freedom, the security, but they're unwilling to endure the temporary discomfort required to achieve it. They want work-life balance while building an empire. They want to relax on weekends while their competition is grinding. They want comfort now and wealth later, not understanding that those two desires are fundamentally incompatible during the building phase. Let me introduce you to Barbara Corcoran, because her system is so simple that anyone can implement it today, and yet almost nobody does. Barbara built a $66 million real estate empire from a $1,000 loan. Her breakthrough came from one reframe. Instead of spending money and saving what's left, she invested money and spent what remained. Here's her system, and I want you to write this down. First, open a dedicated profit account and deposit 20% of every dollar you earn into it before you pay any bills or buy anything. Second, review your spending every Monday to identify patterns and opportunities. Third, before making any purchase over $100, ask 2 questions. Will this generate income within 12 months, and do I truly understand how it works? This system inverts the money loop logic. Instead of asking, can I afford this, you ask, will this make me money? That simple reframe transforms how your brain evaluates spending. You move from consumption mindset to investment mindset. And here's what happens. Within 6 months, your brain starts automatically filtering purchases through this lens. You'll walk past things you used to buy impulsively because your brain now sees them as liabilities that extract money rather than assets that generate it. This isn't deprivation. This is clarity. Now let me give you the conceptual framework that underlies every successful escape, and it comes from Robert Kiyosaki. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out. That distinction sounds simple, but most people trapped in the money loop have it completely backwards. They buy a house with a mortgage and call it an asset. But if it's not generating rental income, it's actually extracting cash monthly through payments, taxes, maintenance, and insurance. That's a liability. They buy a car and call it an asset. But it's depreciating every month and costing them money in payments, insurance, gas, and maintenance. That's a liability. Kiyosaki's escape mechanism involves acquiring income-generating assets, rental properties producing cash flow, businesses generating profit, investments paying dividends, intellectual property creating royalties. The philosophy is radical but mathematically irrefutable. The rich invest their money and spend what's left. The poor spend their money and invest what's left. If you're spending first and investing with whatever remains at the end of the month, you're playing the game that keeps you trapped. You have to invert the order. Invest first, then spend what remains. This is what Kiyosaki calls paying yourself first, and it's the most important habit shift you can make. Here's why this works. When you pay bills first and save last, you're treating wealth building as optional, something you'll do if there's money left over. But there's never money left over. There's always another purchase, another expense, another justification. When you invest first, you remove willpower from the equation. The money is gone before temptation exists. You can't spend what you don't see. And your lifestyle automatically adjusts to the remaining amount. Someone earning $5,000 monthly who invests $1,000 first will adapt their lifestyle to the remaining $4,000. It feels restrictive for maybe 6 weeks, then it becomes normal. But that $1,000 invested monthly at 7% annual return becomes over $2 million over 40 years. That's the power of compound interest working in your favor instead of debt working against you. Now I need to talk about the structural problem, because you need to understand that the money loop isn't just individual psychology. The system itself is designed to keep you cycling. Debt is the primary control mechanism. Student loans, mortgages, auto loans, payday loans, all of these create structural dependence on future income. Someone with a $300,000 mortgage is effectively committed to 30 years of paychecks. They cannot walk away from a toxic job. They cannot take entrepreneurial risks. They cannot invest in themselves through education or business building. They're enslaved to that monthly payment. And the payday loan industry is even more predatory. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that payday loans are specifically structured to be unaffordable, designed so borrowers can't repay in full and must refinance. More than 4 out of 5 payday loans are reborrowed within a month. Nearly 1 in 4 initial loans are reborrowed 9 or more times. This creates a debt trap where people pay far more in fees than the value of credit received. It's not lending, it's legalized extraction. Then you have marketing's exploitation of scarcity and psychological vulnerabilities. Algorithms track your online behavior and serve hyper-personalized advertisements designed to trigger specific emotional states. Someone browsing shoes receives relentless shoe advertisements. Someone researching a competitor's product receives ads suggesting they're missing out on something essential. Sales tactics use artificial scarcity, only 3 left in stock, 24-hour flash sale, to trigger urgency and override rational deliberation. The entire system is engineered to maximize extraction from your bank account. And underlying all of this is the wage trap. Wages have stagnated for over 40 years while living costs have exploded. Housing, healthcare, education, and basic necessities have increased in cost far faster than wage growth. Someone working a $15 per hour job today is worse off in real purchasing power than someone in that job 30 years ago, despite nominal wage increases. This creates a structural gap. Incomes can't grow fast enough to accommodate rising living costs, forcing people to bridge the gap with debt. The money loop isn't just psychological, it's embedded in the economic structure itself. So how do you escape when the entire system is designed to keep you trapped? Let me give you the principles that actually work, distilled from decades of studying wealth builders. Principle 1. Shift from employee to owner mentality. This is the single most important mental shift. You have to move from trading labor for money to building assets that generate money. This doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job tomorrow and starting a business. It can mean investing in rental real estate on the side. It can mean purchasing index funds that pay dividends. It can mean launching a side project that generates income while you sleep. It can mean building intellectual property, courses, books, software that creates royalties. Let me give you a real example. Whitney Elkins Hutton was working a corporate job when she bought her first investment property in 2002. She took the $52,000 profit from that flip and reinvested it into additional properties. Within a decade, she'd built a portfolio of 36 single-family homes, generating enough monthly cash flow that she could quit her job. She understood the key principle. Every dollar earned should be reinvested in assets that generate more dollars, not consumed in lifestyle upgrades. That compound effect, money making more money, which makes even more money, is how you escape the loop. Principle 2. Understand delayed gratification as your competitive advantage. There's a famous study called the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment, where researchers gave children a choice: eat 1 marshmallow now, or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. The children who could delay gratification went on to have significantly better life outcomes: higher SAT scores, better health, higher incomes. Ray Dalio, who built Bridgewater Associates into one of the world's largest hedge funds, says delayed gratification is the difference between wealthy and poor people with comparable starting circumstances. Here's why this matters. Every dollar you spend today is a dollar not working for your future. Someone who invests $200 monthly from age 25 to 71, earning 7% annual return, accumulates over $2 million through compound interest. Their total contributions were only about $120,000. The remaining $1.9 million came from their money working for them, but they had to delay the gratification of spending that $200 monthly for 46 years. That's the uncomfortable truth. Wealth building requires decades of saying no to immediate pleasure in exchange for exponential long-term gain. Principle 3. Build multiple income streams. The money loop depends on income concentration. All your money comes from one source, and all your money leaves toward living expenses. Escape requires diversification: primary job income, side business income, passive investment income, asset appreciation, real estate cash flow, royalties from intellectual property. When Mark Cuban sold Broadcast.com, he immediately diversified by investing in the Dallas Mavericks, movie theaters, and entertainment properties. This ensures that if one income stream declines, others compensate. You're no longer dependent on a single employer or a single income source. That's true financial security. Principle 4. Obsessive tracking and awareness. The most common pattern among people who escape is meticulous financial tracking. Not budgeting in the restrictive sense that feels punitive, but complete awareness of where every dollar goes and what it's generating. Barbara Corcoran's Monday Money Review, Mark Cuban's obsessive focus on metrics, Oprah's systematic business building, all involve detailed tracking and intentional decision-making. Financial denial is what keeps people trapped. Financial clarity is what sets them free. And here's what's interesting. Once you start tracking, patterns become obvious. You realize you're spending $300 monthly on subscriptions you barely use. You see that eating out is consuming 15% of your income. You notice that impulse Amazon purchases add up to thousands annually. None of these individual expenses feel significant, but aggregated over months and years, they represent tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars that could have been invested in wealth-building assets. You can't fix what you can't see. Tracking gives you visibility. Visibility enables change. Principle 5. Establish a non-negotiable savings rate. Both Robert Kiyosaki and Tony Robbins emphasize paying yourself first, treating savings as an expense that happens before optional spending, not after. This typically means automatically transferring 10 to 20% of gross income into savings and investment accounts before that money can be spent elsewhere. The power of this approach is that it removes willpower from the equation. The money is transferred automatically on payday. It's gone before you see it, before temptation exists. Your lifestyle adjusts to the remaining amount, and wealth accumulates in the background without requiring constant discipline. Now here's the final truth, and it's the most uncomfortable one. Escaping the money loop requires accepting temporary discomfort greater than the pain of staying trapped. When Mark Cuban worked multiple jobs while building micro-solutions, he was uncomfortable. When Oprah rebuilt her life after trauma, she was uncomfortable. When Jay-Z started his label in a basement office with no guarantee of success, he was uncomfortable. Each had to accept short-term suffering, no vacations, long hours, financial risk, social judgment, in exchange for long-term freedom. This is why the money loop persists for most people. The immediate pain of sacrifice and discipline exceeds the abstract future benefit of financial freedom. It's easier to spend $5 on coffee today than to visualize the compound effect of investing that $5 daily for 40 years. It's easier to lease a luxury car and feel successful now than to drive a used car and invest the difference. It's easier to live in the moment than to defer gratification for a future that feels distant and uncertain. The money loop survives because modern psychology has been engineered to make instant gratification feel normal and delayed gratification feel like deprivation. Breaking free requires consciously fighting against this current. It requires understanding that the temporary discomfort of building wealth is infinitely preferable to the permanent trap of paycheck dependency. It requires accepting that you're going to feel uncomfortable, deprived, left out, and behind your peers for years before the compound effect kicks in, and suddenly you're ahead of everyone who chose immediate comfort. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in practice. Imagine two people, both 25 years old, both earning $60,000 annually. Person A spends $58,000 and saves $2,000 yearly. Person B spends $51,000 and invests $9,000 yearly. For the first decade, Person A looks more successful. They have nicer clothes, a better car, more impressive vacations. Person B looks frugal, maybe even cheap. They're driving a used car, living in a modest apartment, saying no to expensive dinners. But fast forward 20 years. Person A, at age 45, has saved about $50,000 total and is still living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher income level. Person B has accumulated over $450,000 through consistent investing and compound growth. By age 65, Person A has maybe $200,000 in retirement savings and is terrified about whether it's enough. Person B has over $2.3 million in complete financial freedom. The difference wasn't talent, it wasn't luck, it was the willingness to endure 20 years of living below their means, while their peers lived at the edge of theirs. That's the choice before you right now. You can stay in the money loop, earning more every year but never accumulating wealth, forever dependent on your next paycheck. Or you can make the decision today to escape, knowing it's going to be uncomfortable, knowing you're going to feel deprived sometimes, knowing your friends might not understand why you're not keeping up with their lifestyle, but also knowing that in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you'll have something they don't: actual wealth, real freedom, and the security of knowing you're not trapped. The money loop isn't a trap you fall into by accident. It's a game you've been taught to play by rules designed to keep you losing. Most people stay trapped not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because they've internalized the psychological frameworks that make the trap invisible. They believe their job is their career. They think their income equals their wealth. They assume their consumption reflects their identity. All of these beliefs are false, and they're exactly what keeps you cycling. The first escape happens in your mind. You have to recognize that your paycheck isn't your wealth. It's just the raw material. Your wealth is what you build with that paycheck through strategic investing and asset accumulation. Your job isn't your career. It's a funding source for building assets that eventually replace your job income. Your consumption isn't your identity. It's a choice about whether you want comfort now or freedom later. The second escape happens in action. Investing in assets instead of liabilities. Building multiple income streams instead of depending on one. Delaying gratification instead of chasing dopamine hits. Tracking your finances obsessively instead of living in denial. Paying yourself first instead of saving whatever's left. These aren't complicated strategies. They're simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. They require discipline, consistency, and the willingness to be uncomfortable while everyone around you is choosing comfort. Those who escape do so not by working harder in their jobs, but by working smarter with their money. They understand that wealth isn't built through paychecks. It's built through compound interest, strategic investments, and the relentless conversion of earned income into income-generating assets. They understand that the pain of discipline weighs ounces, while the pain of regret weighs tons. They understand that starting late is better than never starting, but starting early creates exponential advantages that can never be recovered. The question isn't whether escape is possible. Oprah, Jay-Z, Mark Cuban, Barbara Corcoran, and thousands of others have proven it is. The question is whether you're willing to endure the temporary discomfort required to achieve it. Are you willing to live below your means while building wealth? Are you willing to say no to purchases your peers are saying yes to? Are you willing to invest in assets you won't see returns from for years? Are you willing to look less successful in the short term to become truly wealthy in the long term? If you're still watching, that tells me something about you. It tells me you're not satisfied with the status quo. It tells me you recognize something is broken about how you're currently managing money. It tells me you're looking for the exit. So let me give you your first action step right now. Before you close this video, before you move on to the next distraction, I want you to calculate your actual savings rate. Take your total monthly income. Subtract your total monthly spending. All of it, every subscription, every purchase, every bill. What's left? What percentage of your gross income are you actually keeping and investing? For most people, that number is terrifying. It's zero, or close to zero, or even negative if they're accumulating debt. But that number is your reality, and you can't change your reality until you acknowledge it. Once you have that number, I want you to commit to increasing it by just 5% over the next 3 months. Not 20%, not a complete lifestyle overhaul, just 5%. Identify one subscription you don't use, one expense you can eliminate, one purchase you can delay. Take that money and automatically transfer it to an investment account before you can spend it. That's your starting point. 5% might not sound like much, but it represents the psychological shift from spending first and saving last to investing first and spending what remains. It's the crack in the money loop that, if you keep expanding it, eventually becomes your exit. And if you found value in this, if this changed how you think about money even slightly, then subscribe to this channel right now. Because what I just gave you in 30 minutes is worth more than most people will learn in 30 years of staying trapped. The strategies I share here are the difference between spending your life working for money and making money work for you. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications and share this with someone who needs to hear it, because the most valuable thing you can do is help someone else find the exit while you're finding yours. This is William Vanderbilt. You now have the map. The only question is whether you have the courage to follow it. I'll see you in the next one.